Hey guys, I'm Jeremy, and here's a video of my trip to some nice alpine lakes in Colorado. It was cool for a couple of reasons. One reason is that I've been doing all these kinds of hikes in China for years to like these awesome alpine lakes, and so I finally got to do this in the States, which was cool. And then I was also out there with a couple of my best friends, Jeff and Eric, so it was a really sweet trip. So my first trip out to Colorado was actually around, I think, 1997. Me and my buddy Jeff, who was on this trip, we actually took a railroad all across from Buffalo, New York to Denver. And at that time, my sister was living in Fort Collins, so that train trip was pretty sweet. A good, memorable experience for us. You know, everyone was partying on the train and stuff like that. And at that time, Denver was much smaller. I mean, I think it was much more like Buffalo at that time. And so over the years, I've come back a few times and done like some basic hikes for like the day or two, but nothing up to like any really pretty lakes or anything. So initially I was hoping to do the 4-pass loop, which is like 25 miles in about 3 or 4 days up in the Maroon Bells area or whatever. And those guys were already at a bluegrass festival near Boulder for about 3 or 4 days, so they're pretty worn out. And they're like, maybe we want to do some day hikes and hang out. I was like, damn it, you sissies, you know, let's do like, you know, one epic hike for a few days. But fair enough, you know, when you do car camping and stuff like that, it is nice to have like beers and burgers at night, which you definitely can't do on long distance hikes for the most part. We've certainly grown soft though, because we've actually all hiked the Appalachian Trail like in our early 20s. Me and Eric did this section of Maine when we were 18 years old. And yeah, we were in a little better shape then and just a tad bit thinner. And as you might know, there's been thousands of people who have hiked the Appalachian Trail, and only a few of them are notable. You know, you have like Earl Schaefer was the first guy who did it in like the 40s or something, and he was also one of the oldest people to do it. So was Grandma Gatewood. A guy, Mike Hansen, was the first blind guy to hike the trail, and several other notable people have like, you know, ran the whole trail in like a few weeks and stuff like that. So Eric is also one of the most famous people on the trail. I don't think many people know about it, but I think he's probably the first person to hike the Appalachian Trail on a diet of candy. So on our trip, he actually had some cotton candy, which was cool. So I'm sure he enjoyed that. Of course, that's not the only thing we ate. You know, we had burgers and things. So I figured since we weren't going to do a long hike, I'd find some other cool alpine lakes not too far from Denver. So first one we went to was Crater Lakes near Nederland. So we left my buddy's place in Denver and we cruised through Boulder, through the canyons there, which is pretty nice. And then we got to Nederland, and we went to get some food at the grocery store there. Eric was only there for like 5 minutes and he got in trouble right away. He like ate a wrapper sandwich and the lady came up and it was like, I thought she was gonna grab him by the ear and pull him to the register, because, you know, these days you can't do that kind of stuff. Even if he was gonna pay, you know, you shouldn't eat before you get to the register. So he had to go and pay for it first before he checked out everything else. So yeah, then we had another half hour down the road or whatever it is to the parking lot, which was pretty crowded. That's where the Moffett Tunnel is, which is like, I think maybe the first tunnel they made to go through the Continental Divide to the west in that area back in the day. And that hike's not too bad. You know, it's only a couple hours up there and like an hour down or something. It must be maybe about 8 miles round trip. And you know, it's not like super steep. It's a pretty nice pace and some nice scenery along the way. And then you get up to, there's 2 big lakes up there, and then you can go up a little further to an upper Crater Lake or whatever. And so yeah, really pretty area. If you guys hate drones, you'll be happy to know that mine took a swim. I got a little bit of a view and I came down and I was like bringing it in and like hit the pine tree and took a swim right in the water next to me. So a little bit of a driver error, but I know many people are probably happy about that because I don't think drones are too welcome out here. So it rained for about 20 minutes as we came down. In Colorado this time of year, you got to be careful because there's usually afternoon showers. They might not be too long, but if you're above tree line and stuff, you definitely don't want to be up there when a bunch of lightning hits. So like this trail, we were in the trees. We weren't real high, but just in general, know that if you go up above the tree line, you got to really make sure you're down by the time those showers hit. Yeah, so we're heading down the road. We were thinking of going down towards like hiking the Chicago lakes the next day. So that'd be like an hour drive and find some camping down that way. And we were about to take a right to continue on the dirt road. And there was another road to the left that goes up the mountain, kind of in a similar area. And as soon as I looked at it, I was like, oh man, I don't think I want to do this. And, you know, we're in a truck, so, you know, it was definitely feasible and super bumpy and not really fun. But I saw that it eventually ends up at some dispersed camping area in like, you know, a half hour, 40 minutes. So we figured we'd go up and check it out, and then I'd seen that that road does continue to some other lakes. So it was totally improvised, and I'm glad we ended up doing it. And so yeah, the campground was cool. There was only one other truck there with a couple guys, so we had almost the whole area to ourselves up there. I think it was called Antelope Creek Campground, and there's quite a few spots around there if you're up in that area. Yeah, unfortunately this time of year, or because there's been so many fires, we couldn't make a fire that evening, or in general, I don't think you can really much anymore. Colorado's been nailed with a lot of huge fires in the last couple years, so, but it was cool. We just, Jeff and his girlfriend Katie made some awesome burritos, and we hung out a bit there. And then the next day, yeah, we just continued on that road going up. We weren't really too sure what to expect. The one guy in the truck who stayed there mentioned it was, you know, a couple lakes and some campgrounds. So we're like, okay, cool, we'll keep heading up. And the first big lake you get to is Yankee Doodle Lake, which is nice. And there was a bunch of camping around there, but most of the spots were taken. So we were like, well, we'll just keep trying to go up. We knew it eventually dead-ended, but maybe there was some camping. And so we stopped at Jenny Lake on the way, which is nice. And then, yeah, we just kept continuing up to the top. And there was an awesome campground that overlooks Jenny Lake and like the whole area. So it was really sweet. Just past that, another like few hundred meters, there's like a bunch of boulders that fell in the road and you can't get through. And then another like half mile, there's a tunnel, a small tunnel that's actually closed. And so yeah, that evening, you know, we had some burgers and hung out, had some drinks, and they played some bluegrass and stuff. There was a nice sunset, and then there's some nice shooting stars. And then the next morning I headed down there, and later I read more about this area, and I didn't realize that, I mean, it makes some sense that, you know, originally that was kind of like a wagon road that went up there in like the late 1800s. And then around the early 1900s, that was actually a railroad that went up there and over that Rollins Pass to the other side before they had that Moffett Tunnel, which was where that Crater Lakes was. And so, yeah, you get over around the bend and you could see there was that tunnel there. And I actually read 60 Swedes died there when the powder keg prematurely blew up. And so it's like, wow, it's crazy to think of, you know, the dozens or, you know, it could be a couple hundred people or whatever the amount of people that are injured and killed just to make a railroad over this pass that, you know, was probably only used for like, you know, like 25 years or something, because once that Moffett Tunnel was made in 1928, they didn't really use that anymore. I think you could still use a car up there that went through that tunnel to over Rollins Pass up until like the 1980s, but now it's like blocked off at the top. But you can hike over, and so you could go over where that tunnel is, which that tunnel, gosh, imagine all those people died. I mean, it's only 40 feet long or something, you know? And up there you can see actually like what would be like, looks like ruins or something, and that was actually an old Indian hunting ground. I guess they were using that area maybe to push animals off the cliffs or something like that back in the day. And then you could go over around the pass towards like there was some old abandoned towns from forever ago, like Corona and stuff like that to the west, and you could see the old railroad trestles, like I don't know if that's even the way to pronounce it, that you know, that held up the railroad tracks so they can cross over that. And then if you go over to the right, it was cool. I saw there was a kind of sharp ridge. You can go down around Yankee Doodle Lake to the left on the ridge there, and then go off to the right where there's a huge open areas, a huge pastures up there, which is probably also great for camping. And then that comes down to Yankee Doodle Lake. And it's funny, as soon as I went to do that hike, I gave Eric my walkie-talkie, and I was like, you know, talk to me if you need to get a hold of me, because there's no reception in most of these places in the mountains. And I didn't even get up to where the tunnel was, and I'm like, he had moved the channels, you know, instead of just leaving the channels where they were. And my walkie-talkies are in Chinese. So it's like E, R, San, Se, Wu, Leo. And so I was like, oh, I gotta tell people in the future, like, just keep it all the way counterclockwise to E, which is 1. Because me having my walkie-talkie isn't very useful if we're on the wrong channels, right? But luckily I saw them when we got down into the road after a while, so it was okay. But definitely a super nice area. You know, there's definitely a decent amount of people out there. I mean, it's somewhat popular. It's not completely off the beaten track. Yeah, so from the top all the way down is probably about an hour and a half. It's definitely super bumpy. You want to have like a truck or a 4x4, you know, or an SUV or something, because that road is definitely not for regular cars. It's not super fun in that way. Or if you're up there, you know, on some dirt bikes, it would be fun. But it's certainly an awesome place to explore. So yeah, it was a great trip because, like I said, I've been in China for years doing these alpine lake hikes, and I haven't done it here. So it was like, you know, it's cool to be back in the USA. It makes me really excited about the idea of trying to move out to Colorado. We're going to see what happens. I'm going to try to possibly work for some tour companies or do things on my own here. And if you ever want to come out on a trip with me, I'll try to put a link below, and you can either contact me or I'll have some links for some of these trips, because I'd like to plan some more hiking and biking trips out here soon. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like if you did, and subscribe if you want. And I've got some other cool stuff on my channel, everything from when I was, you know, hiking the Appalachian Trail to in the Army to commercial fishing in Alaska, living in Asia for over 10 years, and a bunch of other hiking and biking things and stuff like that. So if you're interested, you can check out those videos too, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.